kind of using bits of everything that I have up because I don't want to leave any fresh produce or meat in my fridges while we're gone for 2 weeks. So we're going to start by dicing up an onion, and we're going to start letting it saute. And for our soup here, I'm using a yellow onion. And I'm just going to do kind of a little smaller dice on it. And not, micro, small, but I want it to be a little bit more fine just so it's not a huge piece of onion when you're eating it. This will add a great flavor to the broth of our soup. I've got a whole package of tortellini, of like fresh tortellini I need to use up, as long as some zucchini and Italian sausage. So I was like, ooh, soup and sandwiches. Who doesn't love soup and sandwiches? Okay, we've got our yellow onion minced up here. I'm going to add a little bit of olive oil to our Dutch oven here. Give it a good squeeze, kind of cover a bit so that they can saute up. And now we're going to add them in here, and then I'll give them a little stir, get them coated up with the onions coated up with that olive oil. And then we're going to start prepping our rest of our veggies for our soup here. Give this a nice stir. Okay. We're going to prep. Let's do our zucchini first, actually. So I've got two good-sized zucchini here. For the soup, I'm going to quarter them and then slice them up into nice kind of bite-sized triangles. Again, since you're going to be eating the soup with a spoon, you don't want anything too big in size when you're chopping it. Okay, so we've quartered them, and now we're going to slice them up in nice little bite-sized zucchini pieces. Zucchinis are a great addition to soup, especially like one with, this is going to have a nice tomato basil broth on it. And the zucchini will just kind of soak up those flavors because it's really spongy. There we go. So we've got our 2 zucchini all prepped up. And then I have a bunch of baby Bella mushrooms as well that we will start prepping. Let's get them all out here. This is about 8 ounces of baby Bellas. Button mushrooms could do well with it. I tend to like baby Bella over white button mushrooms because I feel like they have just a little bit more flavor. So we're just going to do a kind of a simple slice on these. Now you could do a bigger one where you just quarter the mushrooms, and that would work out as well. Get these prepped through here. And we're going to give our onions a nice little stir. And then once they start to get a little translucent in about a minute or so, we are going to snip in some Italian sausage. A few more mushrooms here. You could always also buy pre-sliced mushrooms. I just find that whole mushrooms keep much longer than pre-sliced. Pre-sliced tend to go slimy pretty quickly after a couple of days. So if you keep them in the whole things and then just open them up to air, don't keep them sealed in plastic. That plastic helps kind of spread that moisture out. If you just open them up and keep them open air, they'll actually last a pretty good amount of time. Okay, now I can see my onions are getting, they're starting to get more translucent. They're losing their whitish color. That means a lot of that astringent flavor is out. It'll be lovely. We are going to add in our Italian sausage for our tortellini soup. And then we're going to prep our Aunt Aggie's to go in the oven. But I'm first going to snip in. I've got about a little over a pound of mild Italian sausage. I'm just going to snip this in so it kind of be like a little meatball. Now you could also use ground Italian sausage. That would work out as well as too. I'll snip these in. I will say invest in some good kitchen shears for your kitchen. They don't have to be expensive, but I will say I love my kitchen shears. In fact, I have like probably 6 pairs of them. I went to IKEA for one of my. We were in Memphis for a soccer tournament, and we stopped there, and they had a bunch of kitchen shears for like $2 a piece, and I bought a whole bunch of them because my kitchen scissors always go missing. But I absolutely love them because they're so great for snipping up things, especially if you have little ones and you've got to cut up their food. I find cutting up kids' food with scissors is so much easier than with knives. Okay, we've got our little of our pound snipped up in here. Give my hands a quick wash. And we're going to stir this in and kind of let our Italian sausage kind of start to cook up. There we go. We'll let those kind of there. I'm going to take my knife. I'm going to give it a quick wash because we're going to use this to cut our Aunt Aggies. Just don't want any onion flavor to transfer to our cookies. But I find with Aunt Aggie's, nice hefty knife works well to cut them. So Aunt Aggie's are one of our favorite cookies that we make. It is a frozen cut cookie that has just about, I think, 5 or 6 ingredients in it. I make a big batch of them at a time when I make them, and then I freeze them up, and that way we always have cookies ready to cook up. So I have my oven preheated to 350 degrees for these. And I'm just going to slice them up nice and thin. And then we'll lay them on our cookie sheet and bake them up for just about 7 minutes. But these, I think, are the ones left over from Easter. They hold up in your freezer for like 2 to 3 months. Before, they get like freezer burn. They hold up really well, especially if you just wrap them up with wax paper or a little bit of press and seal. But they're so good. They're, I would say, a mix between a butter cookie and a sugar cookie. So they're not as sweet as a sugar cookie, but they have a bit more sweetness than a butter cookie. And these are our favorite in our family. We definitely make these for all the holidays. I'll dye them up different colors. As you can see, we have nice kind of very neon Easter colors here. They weren't as pastel as you would normally see. But like for Teddy's birthday last month, we made like dinosaur or ocean animal colored ones for his. And I think Evie will probably have us make a fresh batch this week. We're going to be gone for her birthday, but we'll celebrate it a little bit early. So nice, dude. With these cookies, when you make the dough, you can't just bake them up right away. You have to freeze it. But once they're frozen, you can just cut them up and cook them any day, and they take 7 minutes. I believe I have this recipe card posted on our page as well. These are called my Aunt Aggie's. Absolutely love them. The recipe actually has been around in my husband's family since the 1800s. So, minus the food coloring, but they've been around for a while. Try to get. You need a little bit of room for them to spread, but not a lot. I think I can get another row right here. These are kind of funky, cool colors. I've got just a nib left. And then we'll give our soup a little stir. Let's get to working on it. Okay. I want them to have a little bit of space so they don't stick together, but they don't need too much. There we go. Okay, these are going to go in our oven that's preheated to 350 degrees for 7 minutes. Let's give this a little stir. There we go. And we're going to pop these in. gonna set my timer for 7 minutes. These are ones that you don't want to over bake because they go really crunchy fast. So they take a short amount of time to cook, but they are absolutely delicious. Okay. We've got our Italian sausage in here. It's almost all cooked up. We're going to add a little bit of garlic to our pot. Just about, we'll get a little bit of that, about a teaspoon and a half of garlic. We'll add nice little flavor in there. I'm going to let it kind of saute up just a smidge. And then we're going to add in our mushrooms and have those start cooking. And then finally our zucchini. Okay. And the reason I do my zucchini last is the zucchini is going to sweat out a bunch of water, and therefore it won't get as well nice of a saute on it. So we've got our zucchini, or our mushrooms coming in right now. We'll let those start to cook up for just a smidge. And while we do that, let's prep up our herbs. I'm going to grab my knife right here again. Give this a nice wrench. So I definitely have a favorite knife. This is my classic knife by Wusthof. Had it for going on 17 years now. Absolutely love it. Okay. So in our soup, we're going to use a little bit of fresh oregano and some fresh basil. So I picked these from my garden. Nice and fresh. You can use dried if you want. If you use dried, you'll use just a smidge less. Because fresh, when herbs are dry and then you powderize them, they take up less space. So a smaller amount of it gives you more flavor. So with the oregano, we're going to pick off all of the little leaves because we don't want these stalks in our soup. Otherwise, they'll be like, somebody will be like, oh, I've got a stick in my soup. So just make sure you pull them off, and then we're going to give them, of course, a nice mince to let out a bit more flavor. Let's give our mushrooms and sausage a nice stir here. Okay. And we'll pull these leaves off. I will say, fresh herbs is just a really great way to elevate a dish without making it just a bit more restaurant quality than doing other things. It's a simple way to elevate something. There we go. Pull these off. Okay. I'm going to add my zucchini in now before we mince up those herbs. And we'll let those kind of soak up some of those. I almost lost a bit. We'll let them saute a little bit and soak up some of the nice flavors. And get it all coated in those nice sausage juices. Okay. But I do always, instead of just like throwing in the vegetables when you have all the broth, I like to saute them up. It releases their flavors more, so it will give you a richer broth. And it's going to also make the vegetables flavor up a bit more because you'll get a nice saute on them. Okay. So we're going to mince up our oregano and our basil. And I'm just going to mince it up nice and fine because I don't want any big leaves in our soup. Otherwise, sometimes with herbs, if you don't mince them up, you'll get a leaf and it will be very, very fragrant.
You have a question? Is everybody excited about the camping trip?
Oh, yes. They are very excited. I have it's that like pre-camping jitters where you're like, have I got everything in order? Have I planned everything out? The kids are very excited. So I think it's going to be a pretty big hit. They loved it last year, our camping trip. We did the Black Hills and the Badlands, and then of course saw like Mount Rushmore and Crazy Horse. And did all those attractions out in South Dakota. So this one, I've actually never been to these national parks, so I'm really excited, or North and the National Forest. I did a lot of research and picked out our hikes and everything, so I'm really excited. And the kids just absolutely love being out in nature. Okay, we're gonna let those herbs kind of come out for a second, and then I'm gonna put in a little bit of tomato paste. We just need about a tablespoon of tomato paste. You don't need too much. I will say tomato paste is something that is great for soups. I know it's not really soup season, but getting a tube like this is much better than having the cans if you're not going to use a large amount, because you can just pop it in your fridge and it will stay nice and fresh. I want the tomato flavor to really embody our things, and I'm going to add in a bay leaf. I'll do two. I'm going to crush them up so their flavors come out. And when you crush up the bay leaves, they also their texture isn't as strong, like it's not as crunchy, so they kind of get a little bit mellow. You're just going to shred it up so you don't have to fish out the little bits. There we go. I'm going to let those flavors marry, and then I'm going to get my bouillon prepped. Okay, so we're going to add broth to our soup, and instead of actually using straight up chicken broth, I am going to be using bouillon. So this is better than bouillon. Absolutely love this stuff. This is the roasted chicken bouillon. I love it when I'm making soups is because I can add a bit more to it and give more flavor to my broth without adding a lot of water. So I will say this is something I use the better than bouillon stuff all the time because I can add so much more of that chicken flavor to my soups or my rices or whatnot than just straight up broth allows. It's definitely a must-have in the kitchen. So we're going to stir it up here. And then before we add it in, our cookies are calling us, and that is not something we want to let wait. Let's grab my oven mitts. And now look at my beautiful Aunt Aggies. I told you they puff up a little bit, but they don't spread out too much. So you can get a whole bunch of cookies on a tray, which is lovely. And these are perfect about 10 minutes after you bake them. They're warm and still soft, and they're absolutely to die for. They are a family favorite here, but they're fun. They're really pretty cookie. Especially like these were our Easter colors that we did, and they are just, the kids will be very happy because I didn't tell them I was baking them up for lunch today, and they're their favorites. Okay, let's add in our bouillon here. So I've got 4 cups. I'll add it all in of water with the chicken bouillon. I'm going to stir it up. That's going to give primarily the saltiness to our soup. We don't need to add really any more salt to it, which is also a nice thing. We're going to add in 2 cans of diced tomatoes. Now you could always use fresh tomatoes, but I'm out of fresh and I'm trying to use up everything that I have right now before we go on our trip. So we've got our 2 cans of fresh or diced tomatoes. We're going to mix these in, and then to have a nice little bit richer sauce, we're going to add in a can of tomato sauce, and that's just going to kind of thicken up our broth a little bit. And then towards the end, we'll add in a little bit of cream after we've cooked the tortellini, but we don't do that till the very end. So just 1 smaller can of tomato sauce. And this is just going to give you a more rich kind of tomatoey base to our soup.
Did you have a question? Where are you going for the trip?
We are going to the Indiana Dunes State or National Park. I'm not sure if I'm saying it right. And then we're going to Nicollet National Forest, Ottawa National Forest, Chickamauga National Forest, Voyageurs National Park, and Chippewa National Forest. So we've got a lot of hiking and a lot of nature stuff up for us. Okay, we're gonna let our soup simmer for a little bit. While we let that simmer, we're gonna make our sandwiches that we're gonna go for our little dinner right now, our lunch. So last night I made some homemade challah bread, and we ate both ends of it, and we have just the middle left. So we're gonna make a nice kind of big sandwich out of it, assuming it will come out nicely. And so I'm going to just use my bread knife and cut it in half, and then I'll pop that in. We'll put some aioli on it and the cheese, and we'll toast that up. So this is what's left of it. We ate, it was like this big. So we're going to go through, I'm going to cut through this as best as I can to try to bisect it right in half so that we have a top and a bottom layer. I'm always big about reusing my leftovers, refashioning them into completely different meals. So we've got our top, apparently part of our bottom here. No worries, we'll just add it up. I'm going to put it over here because what we'll do is when it's done, we'll be putting the top back on, and then we'll be cutting them into sandwiches. But I'm going to make a little pesto to go on one side, and then we're going to have some cheese that will melt up, and then we'll add our salamis and all that jazz. Okay, so we're going to add, for the top part, we're just going to do Gouda cheese on it. There we go. And then for the bottom, we're going to mix some pesto into mayo, so we have a nice kind of herby blend, but not straight up pesto. My kids find straight up pesto is a bit strong for them. I love it, but they like it a little bit more mild. So I'll mix it with the mayo, and that will give you a bit of a milder pesto flavor to it. So we just need we don't need too much, about a tablespoon of mayo with a teaspoon of pesto. Pesto is pretty strong flavor, so a little can go a long way. And I'm just going to mix it up here. And then we're going to spread this on the base of our sandwich. And then we're going to put a layer of cheese on top of it as well. And then after it's toasted up, we will put our salami on it. I have some pepperoni, red onions, and arugula to give you kind of that spicy Italian sandwich. There we go. So about 4 on the bottom. Now I'm going to pop this in my oven that we had left at 350 for it to kind of toast up and melt. So I'm going to grab that and just pop it in there real quick. And we're going to let those kind of toast up and melt, and it will be delicious. Let me give my soup here a nice stir. I always like to make sure nothing sticks to the bottom of it because we don't want any like bits to start to cook down there. Let me grab my spoon here. We're going to taste it. We're going to see if we need to add anything else to our soup. Perfect. Just the right amount of saltiness with it, so you don't need to add any more. So I can close that up. Let's bring this up to a boil. Let me wash my hands because it's just got a little bouillon on it. And then while we're waiting, we can prep our red onion that's going to go on our little sandwich here. You want to do a nice thin slice of the red onion so it's not overbearing in there. So I will say I have one red onion that always lasts me forever, because red onions, if you didn't know, are really only meant to be eaten fresh. They don't cook up as well. They don't retain their flavor as well. So red onions I typically use for just sandwiches, salads, burgers, as that kind of topping on it. But they're not as nice for cooking up. If you're sauteing, you want to stick to yellow onions, Valdalia onions, sweet onions. eating raw, red. And then for salsas and dips, you can use red onions for it, but the white onions are really good for those as well because they have a nice kind of peak flavor. But when you cook red onions, they actually lose all of their flavor, and it's kind of like a waste of them. They don't get to actually appreciate their nice flavors as much. Okay, we'll have our red onions ready for those when they come out. Now that we've got a nice boil starting to form on our soup, we're going to add in our tortellini. And tortellini doesn't take long to cook, so it's typically we add it in at the very end. And then once it's cooked for about 3 to 4 minutes, we'll add in our cream to give it a nice kind of a creamy tomato soup base. That's what my kids really like. But I will say, don't add that cream until later, and don't add your tortellini in too soon. Normally, I wouldn't put as much tortellini in it, but I want to use this up, so we're going to use the whole container because it won't be good when we come back. But tortellini, when you use it in soups, they really do absorb a lot of liquid and they poof up a lot bigger. So this will be a very tortellini rich soup, which my kids, of course, will love because that's pretty much their favorite part, the sausage balls and the tortellini. So I'm just going to kind of push them all down, make sure that they're all nice and coated under the sauce, and we'll let that simmer up. And let's go see. I'm going to go grab, I think those should be just about ready to come out. I don't want a full on crispy melt on them, but I want them slightly melted. Where are my, there they are. I was like, where are my things? So I'm going to grab those out of the oven here. Good. We've got a nice kind of partial melt on there, which is perfect. I don't want that too hot and melted or they'll slide right off the sandwiches. Now we're going to build them up, build our sandwiches up. And hopefully, by the time we get this done, our soup will be nice and ready. So I've got hard salami, which is perfect for an Italian like sandwich. Hard salami and pepperoni, they kind of go really well. Same with Genoa salami. I find that they pair up quite nicely. Let's get the second one open. Of course, if it wants to open for me. They always make these, you know how they have those little easy tear things on your sandwich packages, but it's still hard. It's like dog food when you have that like pull across and it's like to help you open, but then it doesn't pull across for you. So since these aren't grilled cheeses, you don't have to you don't have to skimp as much on it. And my kids love salami. So we're going to try to use it up. There we go. And then I have a little bit of pepperoni left. So we're going to do pepperoni, not at all of it because only a few like pepperoni, as in my other daughter who likes pepperoni she's in Florida at the beach right now with some friends. So we're going to do one section of this pepperoni mania because this is going to be for my husband. He loves pepperoni. So he'll have a nice pepperoni one, but you could totally do it. And I'm super excited. I just used up the last of it. Every time I get down to something right before vacation, I'm like, yes. Okay, let's add on our onions, and then I've got some arugula, and you can already see my tortellini is really like bubbling up now, but we got that. We've got I think tell Jackie is ready for lunch. He is letting everyone, he's got happy screams going, but I think he is hungry. So good thing lunch is almost ready for them. Okay. Luckily, he's playing with his older siblings in their playroom. I'm sure they are doing crazy stuff like usual. We've got our red onions right on top. And then we're going to put some arugula. Arugula is really great for like an Italian themed sandwich because it has a little bit of a peppery flavor to it that gives it a nice little zing. And it's a very delicate one. So we've got that. Now we're going to fold our top on. So now look at our beautiful challah sandwich there, how gorgeous it is. Our soup is nice and boily here. So we're going to stir this guy up I'm going to add in my cream now because we're right at the very end. And if you are going to say, I'm using fresh tortellini, if you're using dried tortellini, that will cook longer. That will probably need closer to 10 minutes. We're going to add in about a 1/3 cup of cream. You don't need a lot of cream to get that creamy flavor. So don't feel like you have to drench it, put a whole cup in. Just a smidge will give you a nice creamy, velvety taste to your soup. So don't overdo it. Okay. We're going to transfer this here to the cutting board so we can cut it up. And then we're going to be ready to serve up. There we go. So look at that. Awesome. Let me grab my plate. We'll grab a bowl. We'll do my little mini cauldrons. And let's grab a ladle. And we are just about ready. Okay. And of course, let me move my cookies closer because I can't forget dessert. Okay, so for lunch today, we are going to be having our tortellini soup made with Italian sausage, zucchini, mushroom, and then fresh tortellini. We also use fresh thyme and fresh basil. I do love to top my tortellini soup with a little bit of shaved Parmesan for that just perfect touch. Then we'll be serving it with our challah sandwich here. So I'm going to kind of cut it right down the middle. Look at this beautiful challah sandwich. You see all that salami and those just perfect. That bread is going to be scrumptious. And then, of course, let's not forget our delicious Aunt Aggie's cookies for dessert. Well, guys, thank you so much for joining us here today. Don't forget to like and subscribe. I try to do live cooking shows every single day, try to show you what we're making for our family and hopefully teach you guys something along the way. Again, we do upload all of our videos to the link on our page, so if you ever want to recreate any of these recipes at home, you can just go to that link, search for the title of the video, and cook along with me again. We also have a link to our Amazon storefront on our page, so if you were interested in any of the cooking gadgets we are using, our pots, our pans, our knives, or whatnot, I have added all of those in there so you can check those out as well. Well, guys, thank you so much for joining us here today. Don't forget to like and subscribe.